Shall we continue? After the serpent tells Eve, dying you will not die, he adds an addendum, and he says, for Elohim knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be as Elohim, knowing good and evil. This is really interesting to me. Most Christian Bible teachers believe that Elohim is used because of the Trinity, that the plural word for higher beings is used here because God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit created creation and mankind. Now, the Jews don't believe in the Trinity, right? So a lot of Jewish scholars favor the idea that the plural of Elohim, of Eloah, which is Elohim, was used here in the identification of the creator of the universe, or creators, because the angels or other beings helped God in the creation of the universe. Okay. And then also some scholars say, well, actually it is plural. Literally, technically it's plural, but sometimes that plural form is used even though it's only referring to one solitary being, which is Jehovah Elohim. So this might seem like, well, who really cares? What does this have to do with anything? The point is that there isn't consensus on who the serpent is referring to. And I think that that's intentional. So does it really matter? Does it really matter who the Elohim is that the serpent is referring to? I think the answer is yes and no. No is it doesn't matter, because by the time that Adam and Eve were this far down this path, they were already so deeply in trouble that they were pretty much already going to do. They were in a very, very dangerous place by the time the serpent showed up. Okay, they had fallen, and this physical transaction that was about to take place was just the surface of the malignancy, just coming to the surface, that had already penetrated their being. This was just the final physical manifestation of a fall that had already taken place within them for a long time. And now it was coming to full exposure. So does it really matter who the serpent is talking about when he says Elohim? In that sense, no. By the time the serpent shows up, you're probably in trouble. Okay. But also it does matter. And it matters not because we need to fully understand the serpent's offer, but because we need to understand that the serpent's specialty is vague offers that rely on context and individual interpretation to understand. It matters not because we should find the answer, but because we need to realize that we are not meant to. This is designed to be confusing and vague. That is the nature of the offers that the serpent makes. Let me give you some clarity on that. Relying on context, and some of this I'm going to be reading because I put a lot of hours into this, and I'm not going to be able to say it off the cuff as well as I can tell you what it is here. I know that sometimes it takes away from the experience when someone's just reading their words, but this is important that I get this right. Relying on context to clearly understand such an important conversation places Eve on shaky ground. There's room for misunderstanding and deception and self-deception. The serpent, the most crafty and subtle beast, knows this. Ooh. Okay. I'm sitting here in a parking lot with my AC running and my truck on. This is the best place for me to record videos. So vagueness is the potion he uses to call forth our pain and craving. He invites us into tenuous conversations in which we must creatively participate in interpreting his meaning. It's up to us to decide what we want to believe that the serpent is saying. I'm going to keep reading. I'm not even try to, okay. The conversation might begin with a clear and precise locating of our pain point. After all, our pain is what gestures to him that we are ready for a fall. And the serpent might have a precise offer or suggestion that tempts us, but when it comes to the benefits we'll receive from this offer, the conversation suddenly becomes vague and low resolution. We have to squint at it to make sense of it. The benefits require context and interpretation to understand. And while universal law may prevent the serpent from directly lying to us, it doesn't mean he's forced to tell us the whole truth. This is the attraction of the serpent. He offers a nebulous, reflective, deep, a watery linguistic world full of not particles that we can clearly locate, but waves that we must act upon to form them into a material reality. Does that make sense? He creates a nebulous reflective deep. He offers this primordial potential that we can peer into and create from. He offers ambiguity from which we can call forth an interpretation according to our desires. He offers fertile soil for our cravings to manifest and create a solution that theoretically works better and faster than God's unconditional love. I'm not going to read the whole book. That's too much. But that is that part of it. The second thing about knowing good and evil, this promise that he made, did he fulfill this promise? Whatever it actually meant. When he said, I want to get this right, for Elohim knows that in the day you eat it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be as Elohim, knowing good and evil. Did he fulfill that promise? The story suggests that yes, he did. Because the Creator afterward says that he did. What did he actually offer? He offered to supercharge, to overdevelop an aspect of Adam and Eve, or to superdevelop an aspect of Adam and Eve that they were still in relationship with. When he said small you dying, you do not die. Part of that you that he was referring to that would not die was the intellect. Part of it was the physical aspect. We know that those two things continued on. And so what he was offering is the supercharging of an aspect of them that he was willing to acknowledge existed in exchange for the destruction or the abandonment of aspects of themselves that he was not willing to acknowledge existed. I shared a little bit about this in the video that I made about Elon Musk's conversation with Lex Fridman. The deal with the devil always goes something like this. I will make you a god of a lesser world if you give up these certain aspects of yourselves. And since we've already established through this conversation, I've dismissed those aspects of you and you have not fought for them, those other aspects. I've called you meat bag. I've called you birthing pod. I've called you data storage. And you have not corrected me. So clearly you identify as meat bag, birthing pod, data storage, and probably not much more. So that other not much more that we haven't talked about and I haven't acknowledged and you haven't corrected me on, I'm gonna take those. I'm just gonna take those aspects and I'm gonna take the corresponding external dimensions that those aspects occupy in the realm that you were given. But it doesn't matter because they're useless and you don't have them anyway to start with. If you did, you would have fought for them when I called you a meatbag. So how about I make you a god in the world of knowledge? I'll make you like the gods in the world of knowledge. Now, what you're going to surrender in the process is being like God in 7 other aspects and dimensions. The ones that are damaged, the ones that you have abandoned, pushed aside, compressed, suppressed, those parts of yourself that you're no longer in relationship with, or that are diseased and causing you pain. Let's try to cut those off once and for all and make you a god of a lesser world. Let's put you into a corner of the existence that you were meant to occupy and make you very, very comfortable in that little corner. Let's get you a prison cell with a sofa instead of giving you a whole world with all of its, you know, various climate issues. I mean, the mountains are freezing cold and the desert's burning hot. Uncomfortable. You don't want the fullness of life. What you need is a small corner of reality with a really comfortable chair. And we're going to call that knowledge and intellect. And in that space, you will be like Elohim. And in a whole lot of other ways, you will no longer be like Elohim. This is the offer that the serpent makes all of us. And the serpent shows up when an aspect of ourself is already diseased and craving. When we are in that state and we start, what I would like to say, actively imagining taking part in the temptation, we summon the serpent ourselves. We send out a beacon through a certain way of creative imagining. We're like, man, ooh, I tell you, if somebody made me an offer right now, I might take it. And here comes the serpent. He's like, I see you've been hanging out by the tree of the knowledge of fruit of good and evil. Just sitting here, real close. You haven't walked away. You're just hanging out by the tree. Is that what happened? And when Adam and Eve blame the serpent and Adam blames the woman, I imagine it went a little something like this. We were just laying here by the tree, under the tree, with our mouths open, relaxing, and this wind blew. And it blew my hand up against the tree, and I shook, and then the tree shook, and then a piece of fruit fell into my mouth. Like, what could I do? What could I do? I believe that that's much closer to the relationship between Adam and Eve and the serpent and us and the serpent than anything that I've heard preached from anyone else, to be honest with you. That's why I'm writing the book. All right, that's part 3. I don't think I'm going to do all the parts of the book. I haven't even done the parts I've talked about. But I really wanted to make this series to help explain some things that I think people that haven't walked a certain path but have viewed it from the outside intellectually might fail to grasp. And from the questions and from the conversation that Jordan and Alex had, it suggested that there were some pieces that might be missing that I hope that they would consider, and I hope that you would consider if you listen to that podcast, and if you read Jordan's upcoming book, We Who Wrestle with God. I have a feeling this is not going to be in there, and it might fill in some blanks. All right.